All right, we'll get into it later.
I understand. I scared him.
Yeah, that's it. No, he said that he will. He was just crazy busy. He didn't get a chance to watch it. I told him we'd catch up after the holidays in January. So he's really cool to come back. He said he had a great time. Cool. All right, and we are live. So, welcome to episode 255 of the American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we got Bill Sell at WMCX 88.9 FM and WMCX.com, where you can
That's right. Catch the Gobstopper.
That's it.
Thursdays 5 to 8.
And we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here. Thank you for stopping in.
Of course.
Yeah, man. And we've got John K. Alvarez, a.k.a. Johnny Wawa. And I think he's got some, looks like he's got a cup of Joe right there to keep him awake during these uber late hours of the evening.
Yeah. My background describes how bad Kate May looked this afternoon. This is the close.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Go ahead, John.
It was like walking through like foggy London town this afternoon.
I'm very surprised I didn't have to walk home, and this is like the busiest week of the year, apparently, for all these deadlines, so it's just been driving me crazy, and I need to get home till like an hour ago. Now I got to walk the dog, and then I got to eat something, and then I got to feed the dog, and, do all this other shit. But now, we are here and ready to discuss Oz Perkins, Gretel, and Hansel. Are you ready to go?
Yes. Let's go.
Boogie boogie.
Lots of laughs and middle fingers in that intro, dude.
Indeed. That pretty much sums us up. Yep. This channel is no stranger to Oz Perkins. We covered the Black Coat's daughter on this show, if you remember correctly. And I have to say that it was one of two occasions on the show where I felt that I had failed to convey how good the movie was. People just, for whatever reason, just weren't feeling it. The other one was I Trapped the Devil. Which was just personal favorites of mine, but everyone else was like, So I felt that I failed there. But then most recently, he's hit us with Long Legs.
Yes,
right.
And it's rumored that Cage and Alicia Witt are going to be nominated for some awards. So, not like Razzie Awards or anything like that. They're going to be nominated for some legitimate film awards. So I hope that is the case. Here, we have something that happened between the Black Coat's daughter and Longlegs, 2020, Gretel and Hansel. And it reminds you of how absolutely harsh fairy tales really are.
Yeah.
They are awful awful stories. And over the centuries, 3-4 centuries, they've sort of become watered down into, Disney movies. And I have nothing against those Disney movies like Cinderella or Snow White or, whatever. Aladdin, you look at Arabian Nights, they're pretty rough stories. But this and they start to modernize it. You got Drew Barrymore playing Cinderella, and now we're going to have Gal Gadot jealous of that one Rachel Ziegler's looks. That doesn't make any sense, but they sort of modernize. Yeah, because why wouldn't Gal Gadot be jealous of another woman's looks? That makes sense. But here, they're sort of turning it into a horror twist. It's not swashbuckling or anything like that. And it's really low key. There's no jump scares. There's no graphic violence or anything like that. It's just all mood. What did you think, Bill Sell? What did you think of Gretel and Hansel?
That movie was really worth watching. I enjoyed watching it. I will say there was some silly stuff that pulled me out of the movie a little bit. That's mostly writing and plot, but I'm going to say Osgood shot the shit out of this movie. The filming is incredible. The cinematography, the color palettes are 100% on point. I was just looking forward to the next scene and the next scene and the next scene. It was fantastic as far as atmosphere and just watching. It was a super pleasant thing to watch. I do wish the dialogue was a little bit better. But it was a good movie. I enjoyed it.
All right, Eric, what did you think? Now, I should say before Eric gets into it that this movie is available on Tubi and Pluto TV, so you can watch it for free. Right. So don't take our word for it. As we always say, watch the movie yourself and make up your own mind. But it won't cost you anything to watch it right now. Eric, what do you got for us?
First off, I did like The Black Coat's Daughter. I just didn't love it. Okay. And I wasn't here for I Trapped the Devil, but I did really, really enjoy that one. So Perkins he's doing okay with me. Haven't seen Long Legs, and I gotta be in the right mood for Nicolas Cage, no matter what the fuck he's in. This one, however, I really fucking dug. First off, I was sold when I saw Alice Cridge was in it. She's the lady that plays the witch. She has got lots of horror cred with me.
Sure.
The actress who plays Gretel, I really liked her from the It movies.
Yes.
I thought she was really, really good here. Yeah. And again, like Bill says, the cinematography is so good. The sets, you feel the sense of dread. You feel uncomfortable at times when not a lot of things are happening. It's like the anticipation. My only real problem is kind of like with The Black Coat's Daughter, is like there's a lot of buildup, but when we finally get to that final confrontation, I really wanted a lot more.
Right.
When I guess you would say the witch was taken out, I literally looked at my TV and I'm like, that's it. That's what I said. But other than that, I really, really enjoyed this film overall.
All right. John, what do you got?
I loved The Black Coat's Daughter. I loved Long Legs, but I'm sorry. This is the movie that has officially made me the Oz Perkins fan. I will be brutally honest. When I first started and sat down and saw the beginning of the movie, I sat there and said, okay, here's another reboot of a Brothers Grimm story or a fairy tale story. And about 10 to 15 minutes in the movie, I marked down in my notes, I said, brain, you really need to shut the up, because it really pulled me in. The atmosphere that they set up worked.
Yes.
I disagree with Bill. I actually liked some of the humor. The scene with eating the mushrooms, the scenes with eating the mushrooms made me laugh out loud and put on fish. But and I actually enjoyed the ending because of the way the whole movie was set up. If it became this big CGI thing, I've actually probably really been disappointed with that. I love the fact that they were keeping it simplistic in their storytelling and yet still scary in their storytelling. I don't know the name of the actress who played Gretel. I'm glad you guys told me she was in It, because I haven't seen the reboot of It.
Oh, really?
I literally fell in love with her as a performer.
She's
I'm
the
like,
best
oh my
character in
God,
those
she
movies.
is playing this at the right level. And I did. I loved it. There was no over the top acting in it. It was all very low key. And I'll be brutally honest, because I know we're going to probably be coming to the scores, but this is probably one of my favorite movies that I've seen on the panel this year.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. All right. Well, it seems like we've got some universal agreement here. I think for the most part, it's an interesting thing in that evil always seems to want to isolate you. You know, it separates you from the crowd. It separates you from people that are close. It's offering you something, but there's this other card behind the back here that you're not seeing that is the real card that it's like this misdirection
Right.
of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting because we start out the story with the beautiful child in the pink cap.
Yeah.
And it's just like it starts off with a fairy tale inside of a fairy tale. And basically, it's the story of this child who is. Well, does somebody else want to take it?
The child, they were worried about being ill and not living the first winter. And when the father took her to someone of magic,
Yeah.
as the person said, pulled out the darkness in her, but replaced it with something else. And I actually love the way they said that, because they didn't get overly wrapped up in the details. They just said it replaced it with second sight.
Well,
and I loved that, because it was, again, going back to the simplicity of it. They just told you the story, kind of like the way you would read a fairy tale to a child.
There was a specific phrasing that they used. You'd be okay as long as you were brave, and as long as the father of the child was brave and trusted the darkness. You know, and if there ever was a veiled expression right there, like don't trust it, buddy, don't do it. But it's using the father's weakness for the love of his own child against him, pulling out this illness, whatever it was, and replacing it with this very dark thing, which gets so dark by the end, you're like, oh, that's okay. I don't think we ever had this on the show before. And then it sort of goes over to, the traditional, Hansel and Gretel, who are these, these two children. And I this whole thing about how it was a reality about how at some, perhaps hundreds of years ago in Western society, at least, your parents could just cast you out, and say, sorry, we don't have anything. It isn't the loving sort of, now parents would probably go to jail. But it isn't the loving sort of thing that, we sort of take for granted. And, Eric's the only parent here on this panel. But, it would be unthinkable, for him to just say, look, you've got to go. Or for, if Ryan was here to say to his two kids, you've got to go, or anybody that we know that. But there, it's just commonly accepted, and you had no choice. And I was really shocked, because it sort of showed what that looked like.
Right.
The thing was, hold on. It wasn't that they could just cast their kids aside. It's like when Gretel is going basically for that job interview with that rich guy. You know what I mean? He's asking if she's still a virgin and stuff like that. And she pretty much quit right away. And mom wasn't too happy. You know what I mean? That
couldn't
she
you
just
just
decided
smile?
to quit. Exactly.
I love that line. Couldn't you just smile once?
Yeah,
that was one of the additions that sort of bugged me when I was watching it, because I know the original. And I get it. They're trying to say not only is it a cruel world where your parents can cast you out into the woods, but it's rapey. Look out! There's rapies everywhere. That was the theme that they started to touch on in that first scene. Like,
even when he turned around and said, they don't want to be called sir, say my lord.
Yeah.
I mean, it was the way that this guy wanted to be treated, and everybody else that was going to be him was going to be treated. And as much as this guy could have been rapey, some of the people who could have shown up to that job were the same way. And her intuition said, later. It was funny, because I loved that scene, even the way she played it.
Yep.
When he asked her about her virtue, do you still have your virtue? He turned her, and the look, it was like, excuse me?
Yeah.
It wasn't overly played over the top and everything else. It was very realistic. Like, who the are you to say that to me? Without coming out and saying it.
Gretel has a very practical way of looking at things, which is to beware of gifts.
Yeah.
Beware of gifts from things, because you're giving me this thing. Okay, what do you want for it? There's an exchange. She has this very pragmatic way of looking at things, and that there's no such thing as a free gift. There's nobody does anything out of the kindness of their heart. You meet one person in this whole movie who does that, and we'll get into him in a little bit.
Extreme German sort of way of looking at the world too, which is where these things come from Northern Europe, where things are brutal, and they've always been brutal. And if you go back 500 years, 700 years, it's way brutal.
It was like even when Hansel was talking to her, and I'm sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to talk over you. My apologies.
No, go ahead.
No, it was when Hansel even said, "You told me this, Gretel. You can get something, but you have to give up something, or something gets taken away." And I liked that. I also like the fact, before we get further into it, I love the fact that Gretel was older than Hansel. Normally, with Hansel and Gretel, they're almost like portrayed as twins.
Yeah.
Type deal. I love the fact that she was the older one being protective. I thought that was actually a very good touch.
And it was an interesting rapport in that it starts out early on where, he's the little sibling or the little brother who just follows her around everywhere.
Yeah, he's a tag along.
Yeah, he's a tag along. No matter where his sister goes, she goes, and she just kind of puts up with it. And she's more the caretaker for her younger brother than the mother is, who clearly is undergoing either some sort of psychosis, or that was like the children here are portrayed as almost just like utilitarian, like they're extensions for making money. If you're talking about a job, then they're open to whatever may be happening at that job. Sorry, you just got to roll with it. There's none of the protections that we recognize in our modern society, that people get around all the time. Don't misunderstand me. But, none of those protections seem to be in place here. It's just, it's like that. The kids are the free lunch. Either mom can use them to make money. The pervy, employer can use, to molest some kid or something like that. You've got the witch who has her own designs. That's just it's a cynic's world that's set up here. And then when her mother, who I thought was only in it for 5 minutes, but she stole the fucking scene completely. Says, you need to get out. You need to go. You need to go now. And then she does that little thing where they do the snorting, and you think that she's going to, sort of, change your mind, this, that, or the other. And then all of a sudden the axe comes fucking flying into the table.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh shit, like this bitch is fucking crazy.
You need
talk
to
about
go.
Symbolism just smacking you right in the face. It's like she's cutting the umbilical.
I'm cutting you off,
right out.
I loved it when the mother said, dig yourself your own little holes. She didn't say grave, she goes, and dig one for me.
Yeah.
Because she knew, I don't know if she was going through a depression because her husband had died, or she was just overwhelmed. But I love the way that was played. It was a nice little reinterpretation of it.
And just the setting of what it meant to be cast out. Like it was just so ridiculous that they're just walking in the woods. They have no money. They have no food. They have nothing for, any sort of warmth or, for clothing or anything. They're just walking in the fucking woods. And it's such a simple thing to see.
Right.
But I'm watching it. I'm like, this is just so profoundly fucked up. That this is what being, because, you either you have or you know somebody when we were young that wanted to run away.
Right.
You know, that like where the fuck are you gonna go?
Right.
You know, Bill, John, you know, we all sort of grew up in the same area, you know, here down, well, John in Philadelphia, but Bill and I here in Atlantic County, South Jersey. Like, we grew up in this, you know, relatively rural area. Like, where the fuck are you going to go?
Right.
You know, and there they are, just, you know, and they just, you know, as advanced as Gretel might have been during that pervy conversation, you know, the guy's, you know, completely, you know, inappropriate. She was very small in the woods. You know, was it Eggers the witch? You know, with a little boy in there? No, not quite, but because that was like the extreme end of the bell curve. But it's pretty fucking grim.
And I love the fact
it definitely struck me that Osgood was trying to do something akin to the witch. I mean, the witch pulls it off a lot better, sort of like a witch in color. That was one of the things that pulled me out of it, was that he's the writer. It wasn't Osgood, the writer, Ryan, whatever his name is. He tried really hard to write along those lines, but it seemed like he didn't do his research, because he would have them talking sort of in a medieval way, in a medieval fashion. And then every once in a while, there'd be some 21st century American phrasing in there that would just be like, and be like, come on, man.
I did like the fact that when they were first walking, it was Gretel trying to keep Hansel's spirits up, the way she was talking about it, but you heard the fear in her voice. She knew they were overwhelmed. And I love the fact, and this is where I was mentioning before, the way they were using the atmospheric touches, the lighting, as good as it wasn't overwhelming. They allowed the shadows to play their effect.
They also did a good job,
and I really enjoyed that. That was a nice touch.
They also did a good job with
the flavor of how a forest is just so immense and they're so lost. There's no roads. There's no other place to get to.
Exactly. They're so small in this big world. And then what I also liked is there's certain scenes where you feel cold watching this. There were lots of times when they're just laying, I get, back in the bedroom, and they got the fire behind them, but you feel cold for them. The scene where Gretel, they've already met the huntsman, when she's, taking her bath out in the woods, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you have that big fire behind her. I was freezing watching her freeze, you know what I mean? So I don't know how Perkins was able to convey that to me, but I felt cold. Just maybe it's because she's basically in the middle of in the middle of nowhere, that far away from the little hut, you know what I mean? The fire that far away in the background. You feel really cold, so you can feel the elements in this movie.
That's good filmmaking, man. I felt the same way watching Fargo for the first time. I saw it in the middle of the summer, and in the theater, I was freezing. I was shivering just because of what I was seeing.
It's good storytelling. I mean, I know I say that a lot on this show, but it's true. This is really good storytelling, and Oz did a great job just doing it. Just trying taking what he had and telling the story.
Yep.
I love the fact that it's almost like it was feeding us like we were hearing the fairy tale.
What's the significance of the huntsman? I don't know if anybody noticed this. There are no men really in there. I mean, there's the pervy employer that she tried to, wants to, she's going to the job interview for. And then there's the huntsman. And the huntsman, I don't remember in the traditional Hansel and Gretel what role he plays. But here he seems to be, the only one with any sort of, I don't know, he's a traditional male protector.
Right.
He's not interested in them hanging out. He's not offering them a job, but he gives them, food, and he gives them shelter, and he gives them an opportunity to get clean. And, Gretel's first response is, what do you want from this? And his answer is, you don't have anything I want or need. He goes, it's just, I'm doing a good deed, because it's the right thing to do, essentially.
In the fairy tale, isn't the huntsman actually their father? And no.
There is a huntsman in this, and there's also one in Little Red Riding Hood. And the point about it is, I don't know if it was the telling of the myth of the good man, so to speak, which I kind of liked, especially as the movie went on, when especially the witch was talking about men. You know, he was showing
clearly
kindness.
didn't like men.
Yeah, but he was showing kindness, and he was the exact opposite of it. Like, I could see at the end of the movie, if they ever did a sequel to this, Hansel growing up and being like him, being like, you know, the woodsman, because how impressed he was with this guy. I mean, let's be honest, he also had a dead shot, too. Not thinking too much in the movie when we took the guy out.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the they go to the wrong house.
Yeah, and the guy was the morbid guy was coming in, and all of a sudden, as she was trying to confront him, all of a sudden, boom, right to his side, and he's like, "You all right?"
Yeah.
And I mean, and he also had one of my favorite lines in the movie, and I can't remember it now. When he was looking at Hansel after eating the rabbit, he said, "I don't find rabbit, you know, pleasing," and he goes, "We got to give him a bath." Was it he looks like a pile of compost, except for his white eyes. I laughed at that because that's, you know, he was being blunt, but he was also being kind. Take a bath, get a rest. Here's a map. This is the best I can give you, but I'm helping.
It would have been, I thought perhaps we would see more of him as the movie went on, but he's in it for like 10 minutes and then that's it. We should mention this movie is less than 90 minutes. It's 87 minutes long. So there's no fat on the script. It just starts moving and it just keeps moving and progressing. There's no like, wow, you could have cut that scene out or this, that, or the other. Really lean script. You know, his advice, you know, because they're going out to pick up a trade. You know, they're you know, tradesmen or foresters. They're going out to see the foresters. I guess to become like lumberjacks or something like that, and earn a living doing that. And he's like, don't talk to the wolves.
Yeah, don't talk to the wolves.
They're charming conversationalists, but they're you know, and he's like, they're really, you know, rough. And so I thought we were going to, you know, get maybe some, you know, werewolf mythology or something like that.
I was thinking he was thinking of wolves as people too. Is how I talk and say, no, don't talk to the wolves. It's like, you know, the ones you would actually because what he was the opposite of the men we saw before. You know, these are the two people that Gretel has to see. One man's a pig. The other one's actually doing the nice thing to be the nice thing. And then when you meet the witch, she's bringing in all the shades of gray, you know, for the story. And again, I could be overreaching on that, but I really did. I liked his character for what little time he was in it. Yeah,
so did I. Because it was such a rare characteristic throughout the entirety of the movie. There was nobody else like him. Everybody else is just teetering or manipulative, or just outright evil. So, you know, you had this one stalwart, you know, sort of, you know, good-hearted man. Next thing you know, they're eating fucking mushrooms.
Straight out of the bear. Yeah. That was a great scene. It didn't belong there, but it's a great scene. And I guess he wanted to put it in something, and he figured that was the scene. But it was great when she was talking to the mushrooms and trying to figure out if they were going to be poisonous or not. Great.
I think they're telling me to eat them.
Yeah.
It's almost like a Wonderland thing.
Yeah.
And the kid is always so I'm so hungry, you know, like I'm starving. You know, he probably hasn't eaten in 30 minutes. You know, I'm starving. I'm just, you know, all that with a child's demanding, you know, thing, you know, happening at all times. And next thing you know, I thought that the visuals during the trip were actually really cool. Yeah. And the imagery in the forest. There's this one shot where you're looking at the trees and they're reaching up, but somehow he does the shot like upside down and it looks like the tops of the trees are like reaching down into the ground. It's fantastic.
Yes.
Visually, this movie is just amazing to watch. The design of the houses, the small details inside the houses. When she goes on the mantle and she finds like that wooden clawed artifact or something, just small little things that, you know, you don't have to put in there at all. And you're like, wow, this is really fucking good.
It captures it the way, what's his name? He did Headless Horseman. That's another movie. Was it?
Burton?
Yeah,
Tim
Tim Burton. Headless Horseman did the same thing for me. All those little details,
Yeah.
creating the atmosphere of colonial Hudson, and this
Right.
did the same thing.
Yeah, and it immerses you in the experience,
Yes.
which I really, really enjoy about this movie. I mean, that's kind of why when she was sitting there laughing after eating the mushrooms, I couldn't help but start laughing too, because I'm like, this is just very funny because it was believable. She wasn't sitting there going, hee, hee, hee. It was just a genuine laugh. She couldn't stop giggling. As a young woman or almost, older adolescent, I'm assuming she was like about 12, 13, the way they were portraying her. I don't think she was like close to 18. She was, and because back at that time, they would send you out there to start working type deal. And I loved that because she was, even with her experience, it showed a simpler side, which I kind of liked.
So, I mean, we get a first look at the witch's house, and I was just looking see if they had a photo of it up on IMDb. What did you think of that house? The design from the outside of that fucking house. I'm like, holy, they were so nice. I was like, fuck, like I could live in a thing like that. It's just so fucking cool looking. I remember thinking that. I'm like, this is a really awesome fucking setup.
Right.
It was great, but the book in the original story was supposed to be made out of cakes and candies. It's supposed to look like Santa's house on the North Pole. So I was a little disappointed in not seeing that. But the kid was always running around going, "I smell cake, which kind of made up for it.
Yeah, that was funny. He was walking around, whining and complaining about how he was hungry. Then suddenly, out of nowhere, I think I smell bacon. And then he turns around and he sees the house right there.
Right.
I don't. Go ahead, John.
No, I agree with you, Mike, because the way it stood out compared to all the other houses we had seen at the time. The rooms, the setup, and everything else, which were very cold-esque. I looked at that and went, I agree with you, Mike. I could live there. Yeah. It always had that glow of gold in the window, and it looked inviting. So it wasn't made out of cake and candy and such, but it was still inviting to them. There you go.
Look at that thing. Look at that thing. I love that.
Yeah. So do I.
Love that.
Yeah.
I would fucking
I love the fact it also looks very modern.
Yeah. I mean,
they didn't try to hide the fact. They said, it looks modern. That would be inviting to somebody who grew up in a castle or something that was covered in mud.
Yeah, different than the typical witch lair, which is very claustrophobic. This thing had, lots of space. You felt like,
right. Yeah. Come in.
And it's not like Eggers the Witch, where the witch comes out, you see her one time, and she looks like she stepped out of a fucking Aerosmith video. Remember, like with a boy, she comes out and she attempts that book, and you're like, holy shit, that's the witch. Well, it's not really her. Of course, she's putting on a disguise. But what did you think of thoughts on the witch yourself?
I love Alice. Like I said earlier, I love Alice Cridge, and anything I see her. She really, I like the prosthetics because Alice does not look like that. They did a good job of making her seem old, but not ancient, because I was expecting old timey, like, 100 years old type, with the wrinkles and the stereotypical looking witch, from the fairy tale. And she just looked like a typical old woman. And that's kind of what made her more scary to me. She black magic and all that shit type of thing. But when they look like a normal, realistic person,
right? That's
what makes it more scary, because it's like it's like your neighbor. You know what I mean? Yeah. And she did a really good job, welcoming them in. But there was still that, there's that sinister stuff that is going to happen,
right?
And you're just waiting for it to happen.
The black fingers,
a
telltale.
She reminded me of a grandmother who wasn't afraid to answer a question.
Yeah.
I had a grandma when I was growing up, no joke intended, who, when I was a kid, when everybody else would kind of push the kids aside, I asked her questions. She'd say, well, this is why.
Yeah.
And it was very honest. It wasn't like I said, well, why did he do that? He goes, well, there's just some people who are assholes, John. You know,
Mhm.
Type deal. I'm going, and I'm like 6 years old. Well, what does that mean? You'll find out. But I kind of like that the way she spoke, especially to Gretel.
Yeah,
You know,
she says something about
letting her talk.
how tough a journey can be if you got like a pebble in your
Mhm.
shoe or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, when she's trying
Exactly.
to get her to ditch her brother,
You know,
finally. Yeah, she
Hmm.
was. Yeah, that was very effective. That's a very
also-
good description of
Yeah.
what she was doing. Was
Yeah.
just laying out her future, which is
Yeah.
you're going to be an old lady like me up in this house.
Mhm.
But you have the powers. All you have to do is accept it and ditch your brother.
I think she also made a very good symbol, and I might be reaching out on this one, but a very good symbol of temptation. She
Yeah.
was also tempting Gretel on a lot of it. You can do this too.
Mhm.
You can, type deal. I sent you, it's in the choices are yours, type deal. She
Well,
wasn't
yeah.
forcing her to go anyway, but she was saying,
no, but she
you
wasn't
know-
showing her another way to do it either.
yeah,
This is the way that you do it, and it's, you're going to be
Right.
isolated, and you're going to live here, and you need
Mhm.
to, get rid of your brother, which we find out means something
Mhm.
completely different than what, Gretel at first thinks.
Mhm.
Right.
And, this is the way that, that things are going to be done.
And also-
It's this house that,
Mhm.
never seems to need any supplies.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, there's always a bounty of, meat and
Where's
bread.
the milk coming
And
from?
where's the
Right.
milk coming from?
I know
There's,
plums out of season will go bad in a few days.
there's tea, and
Yeah.
it's this house of bounty in the
Mhm.
middle of it just makes no sense.
Mhm.
Like, it makes absolutely no sense, but you're so enraptured by
Mhm.
kind of how cool everything is, and she's got this sort of sleight of hand and this charm to her.
Yeah.
It's like this gruff woman's kind of charm. They see all the food,
Right.
and she's like, "Are you expecting guests?" And she's like, "Guests? I'd rather have roaches,
Right.
than guests." Alex
one of my
Alice
favorite
Krieg.
scenes-
Wait, hold on,
Yes, sorry.
Alice Krieg, who we all recognize as the Borg Queen from
Right.
Star Trek.
Mhm.
Who even back then, had a very sort of evil, temptuous, kind of thing going.
Mhm.
Fantastic and solid performance. Fantastic.
Yeah,
also-
she plays a villain a lot
Mhm.
in a lot of her roles. She's usually never the good person.
There's a movie, late 70s, early 80s called Ghost Story, where she plays a ghost seeking revenge on older gentlemen who actually killed her in the past, type deal. And she was brilliant in that.
Mm.
One of the things that she does, and again, it's going back to the storytelling, when she's playing with Hansel's hair and pulls the hair out, and when Gretel looks at her, she goes, "I'm checking to see if there's lice before he lays on my sheets."
Yeah,
I love that because it was
that was
all
a good one.
as menacing as it could have been. That was a realistic answer.
Mm.
Mhm.
And she smells hair, goes, "Oh, clean enough."
And of course, she's got a hairless cat.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
That was very
course.
effective too.
Yeah, she's got a hairless fucking cat.
Right.
There's no cuddliness in this woman whatsoever.
Yep.
I thought it was really, really evil, or at least a little bit telling that both of these kids, they're searching for their purpose, and this woman's going to show them their purpose.
Mhm.
And she gives Hansel an axe,
Yeah,
and he
but
goes
just
out
gonna
and
get
tries to be a woodsman,
Right.
and he just fucks it completely up. He can't cut
Mhm.
anything. He's just a failure
Right.
at it. Like, yeah, it
Mhm.
just was it. I don't know what they were trying to say there, or at least I don't want to try and say it, but
Well,
that
I
was
think that
really
what they
good.
were doing was showing that he was so weak that he was just,
Right.
he's dependent. He's a baby.
Right.
He couldn't
Useless.
he couldn't defend himself. He couldn't
Right.
even
As a
pull
meal.
even with an axe in his hand. He couldn't pull the fucking axe out of the tree. He's so
Right.
weak.
And blame
The
the tree.
The next thing is she's given the goo to Gretel.
Oh yeah.
Right away, she can
Yeah.
work that like witch's broom for a better
Right.
term.
I like that. Yeah, she controls.
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, that was cool because it's one of the few times that you overtly see something happen. Like
Right.
that's the great thing about this, I think about this
Yeah.
performance is that there's witchcraft going on, but you see very little of it.
Mhm.
You know, it's just all kind of implied.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's just solid stuff. You know, the
Like
way
when
she
she was
just sort of
making the
looks at
joke.
she looks at the two of them and she just goes, finders keepers.
Yep.
You know, she's just, you're
Yep.
mine now. You know, you just kind of wandered right on in here.
Mhm.
Of
And one
course,
to be discarded and one to be, brought in.
well, not discarded, not
Oh,
discarded.
one to be eaten, one to be shown.
Yeah,
You know.
I didn't see that coming. Now I'm a little off on my Grimm's fairy tales,
Mhm.
but there's this thing that Gretel always sees, especially in the woods. She's seeing people, or
Right.
figures or children, and
Mhm.
their
Mhm.
souls trapped in. I think I can't remember if Hansel says this, but they're like their souls trapped in this house or under it or something. She's having these dreams, and these children are appearing to her. And when you finally get to the scene where you find out where the food's coming from, and you're just like, holy shit. Like it's so low key. It's so, it just the pacing never breaks. It doesn't jump.
Right.
It's just even, and you're just like, holy shit.
And it's not done for shock.
No.
I mean, it wasn't like a whole thing that all of a sudden exploded in front of you. It was, you're right. It was just casually shown.
She pulls that long blonde ponytail or whatever you want to say, braid out of her mouth and just casually, throws it on the table. It's like, it's like a hunter, he finds a piece of buckshot in his deer or whatever and just spits it out. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Holy
shit.
I
love how she kept referring to it as delicious. I never found anything that tasted better. I'm like, and just the way she said it, there was no menace in her voice.
She's just very matter of fact.
Yeah. And that was brilliant because that made it even scarier.
Yeah, I remember Marty saying that when we did top 5 villains or whatever, I think I named Ray Fiennes from Schindler's List in it.
Yeah,
it's like Amon Goeth, and Marty had said that he was so evil that the awful shit he was doing was just monotonous to him.
Right.
It wasn't a big deal anymore. It was just like, I got to shoot fucking 100 people today. No big deal. Jesus Christ, what this day
it's Tuesday. Yeah,
it's like a bad day at the office. It's not murdering 100 people. You're just, it's like one of us having a really shitty day at work. Well, we have a shitty day at work. It's not because we, murdered, or just going on a shooting spree.
Yeah,
we
fell behind.
So I love the metaphors for poison. I think she refers to Hansel as poison. You have to consume your poison,
right?
But your poison is just sweet, like it's so sweet tasting. I think the way she phrases it.
Thing,
it's the sweetest thing, and you're just like, holy shit! Like this is just grim.
Right. And how can it builds your tolerance up by eating the poison. The more you eat, the more you'll you can tolerate it.
Yeah. She's trying to get her to eat her brother because that would set her up for the rest of her life as this witch. She could eat more children, lure them in, and eat them.
Well, that would be the thing, because that would be the thing you couldn't come back from.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the thing. If you eat your own, there's no coming back from that.
Right.
Maybe eating, what she's been eating unknowingly is one thing. You can say, I didn't know that, but to get you to willingly participate in fratricides and cannibalism, willingly participate in cannibal, there's no coming back from that.
And it was funny because up until that time, the witch was bringing Gretel into that. Take this, read this thing, when she was showing the book and working on her to build up to it, and then you say, okay, this is the last step, and that's what got her. I also love the fact that she referred to Hansel as a burden.
Yeah.
Your mother put that on you.
Yeah.
I'm going to release you from this.
Yep.
I love that because, again, it goes back to what I was saying about the temptation. You can put your mind at ease. I can, I can show you this.
Yep.
She made the potion to put her to sleep and said, "Oh, you came close." That was
Well,
good, you know.
Then she
Well, go ahead
slowly
on.
realizes and slowly starts to see what's going on
Yeah,
until it all washes over.
I love
Well,
that.
I mean, Gretel actually goes along with it quite a ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
She really, she's not like
Yeah.
fight. Like, she gets wrapped up in this. Casts her own brother out.
Yeah.
Thinks it's a dream. Maybe she wakes up the next day.
Right.
She goes, I wouldn't have done that. You
Right.
did that.
I love
So
that. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
it's
My
this
apologies.
it's this slow sort of, and it's got a different meaning than than I'm using it here. But it's this slow sort of grooming process.
Right.
She's creating like an understudy.
Right.
Mhm.
She's creating, she wants a pupil. She wants a disciple. She's in there all by herself. She's old. She's not going to live forever. She begins to spin her own story about, who the beautiful girl in the little pink top really is,
Right.
and what she did to her.
Right.
She ends, and it's just like this, the pacing just never stops. Like, it's even throughout, and it's calm, and there's no screaming, and there's no shouting, and there's no blood, per se, or anything like that. And you're just you're like, wow, this is really fucking good.
I loved it also when the two characters flipped. When they were first in the witch's house, Gretel wanted to get out and Hansel wanted to stay. I mean, come on, it's warm, we're getting fed. And then when Gretel started becoming accustomed to it, Hansel was like saying, I want to go home. I want to get back to mom. Because he was sensing something wrong.
Right.
I mean, she was like the wizard's apprentice.
Yeah.
The way it was being focused. And I really loved that. It was very subtle and simple storytelling that worked, in a really good sense.
The thing that we talked about when we talked about Eggers the witch was that there really was no witch. I mean, there was, but pride was and hubris were really, that family's enemies. The witch it was like a Jenga game. The witch pulled this one little piece and then just watched them completely come apart on their own. Here, you have, and it's not quite Eggers level, but it's still really solid. You got a witch that's actively, trying to manipulate, trying to deceive. There's the one scene where you see a pentagram carved into the tree. It's a little on the nose, but it's clearly, she's a deceiver. She's a liar. She's only showing you, the one side of the thing. Until she doesn't, and then there starts to be this pushback.
And I love the shoes hanging in the trees.
That was
I have
good.
no idea why. When I saw that, after he saw the pentagram and Hansel cut his first tree down, and he looks up and he sees all the children's shoes hanging.
Yep.
I love that. That was so creepy. It worked really well for me.
In the tree trunks and in the, you'd see toys and clothes stuffed like in the underbrush. And you're like, what the fuck? Where are these kids? And just fucking eating children.
Right.
So
I like this is when we get the reveal, like you said earlier, of who she really is and who the little girl really was. I like when you find out that the kids are being taken and eaten when they go into that house or whatever. There's no screaming, there's no blood, but you see the smoke from the chimney turn red.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So again, we always say less is more here.
Yeah.
Your mind is picturing what's going on behind that closed door. You know what I mean? And
exactly.
The lack of visual and the lack of sound is just perfect for it.
Yep.
Yeah. That's the success of the film. Is that the scoring is really light. It's not heavy. It doesn't signal anything. You can see in a horror movie, you can tell when something's about to happen. There's none of that here.
Right.
There's none of that here. And then the ending's a little abrupt. The ending's a little abrupt. But it's even. It's even with it's even with the rest of it. Excuse me.
And it was the choice to me at the time where if Gretel had to choose, was she going to go down this path or save her brother? type deal. What type of person would she become? And I kind of like that. And then it also has another one of my favorite jokes or my favorite references at the end of the movie, like that.
Well, I mean, she ends up becoming a bit like the huntsman. She becomes, it leads you to believe she's going to be a protector.
Right.
A protector out there in the woods, maybe fending off some wolves.
Right.
Maybe Hansel will go out, it seems to end on an optimistic note, which I didn't mind because it was the first time you saw any of that throughout the entire film, and it only lasts maybe 3 minutes. But
she ditches him anyway. She just does it in a kind way and doesn't eat him, but just
I mean, you notice her fingers got dark, so it's there.
She's initiated. She's initiated.
Yeah, it's what she chooses.
Yeah, she's initiated. I don't think there's any going back from that initiation, and there's no life for him living in that house.
Right.
Well, there was also a subtle change in her, and it's weird because I noticed it. I actually rewound it on Tubi when at the end of the movie, clothes she were wearing were kind of gray and dingy, and Gretel came out. It was white.
Yeah.
Or not white, but it was a brighter white color.
Yeah, it was clean.
In my head going, is she going to be a white witch? I don't want to say, is she going to be a good witch or a bad witch? But
it's a good thing you didn't say that, John.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where she talks about whether it's going to be for good or for evil. It's just, it's almost like an X-Men kind, it's like Professor X or Magneto, that kind of thing. Although I just cheapened the whole movie by bringing that up.
Well, I also like the fact that they made a reference to the Wizard of Oz at the ending. When Gretel got a hold of or was able to control the broom, and the Wicked Witch looked at her before the final strike and went, "What a world!"
Oh,
I laughed out loud because that's the last lines one of the last lines that the Wicked Witch of the West said in the Wizard of Oz movie. I'm going, all right, nice tie-in. It wasn't the greatest line in the world, but I did giggle at it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice reference to another famous witch, as it were.
She also has no name. Alice Creek. She's just.
What is she credited as in the movie?
Just
witch. Okay.
Yeah. And I kind of like that. I'm glad she didn't have a name.
Man.
I mean, I even liked it when Gretel called her man, and she went, "Oh, please, stop that."
Yeah.
All right. Is there any part of this film that we have not addressed that you would like to discuss?
I love the fact that I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm just saying no.
I love the fact that it was shadowy but not dark.
Right.
That was the one thing I was concerned about. They were going to keep the scenes too dark and everything else, and they didn't. There was enough lighting and everything else that really also helped with the mood.
Yeah.
The setup.
Very bright. There's always light coming through the forest and lighting up the color palette. Like I said, that was just on point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I mentioned it, but I really wanted to emphasize that. I loved the fact that it wasn't until towards the end, even at the final fight scene, that it got bright, type thing.
Yeah, the fire was blue. White, light gray, and very, very bright, brightly lit.
And the fire being blue, I kind of liked. Yeah,
there was that one scene in the room where it was like, how is that being lit? Because you're trying to still hang on to the idea that this is like the 1200s or whatever, but just clearly electric light, this yellow electric light. But yeah, it still worked because of the color effect.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful movie visually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the part in the show where we rate the film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather grow a ponytail all the way down to my ankles than watch this movie again. All the way to 5, which is this is the journey, this is the destination, this is why I watch films in the first place. I want you to know I went right on Amazon and bought a used copies on Blu-ray. So it's one of those films that's just good for I think a low-key rainy Sunday, or something like that. You won't watch it every week, but it's one of those. It's good. You pick it up for $4. Who cares? Right. Bill Sell, what did you give Oz Perkins, Gretel, and Hansel.
I will give it a 3.5. It's definitely a good watch. Definitely worth seeing. I had problems a little bit with the pacing. It felt like there was an hour's worth of content, and he did some stuff that was padding it, including the wonderful mushroom scene that didn't belong there, the zombie that she knocked the eye out of. That just it didn't serve the story. I thought some of the themes were muddled. They were touching on some things that just disappeared. I don't think it was as well written as it could have been, and some of the dialogue was a little crap. But overall, worth watching, especially for the visuals and for the atmosphere, for the way it makes you feel. And it's a real good movie, good performances, and 3.5.
All right, 3.5. Eric, what do you got for us?
I think I'll give it a solid 4. Strong performances. Again, I'm a big fan of Alice Cridd. This is probably one of her best roles that I've seen her. And even though she doesn't always make the best movies, she's always the star of the film for good reason. And she's finally the best role in a really good movie. So I'm happy I watched and saw that. Both of the other leads, Hansel and Gretel, really, really good. Great cinematography. Like I said, you feel cold at nighttime. You feel warm when you're around the fireplace. I mean, when I say this, it's just nitpicking. I'm no fucking writer. I don't know how I would have spun it. I do wish the final confrontation was a little bit more than her just kind of getting stabbed and then poof, she's gone, and then turns to ash. But what are you gonna do? Overall, I think it's a solid 4. It was really, really good.
All right, John, what do you got?
I was thinking about this because you had mentioned Eggers the Witch, and I gave that a 5.
Yeah.
When we did that one. I'm giving this a 4.5. I didn't have a problem with the ending. It was the equivalent of, like in the story, the fairy tale story where they shoved the witch in the oven. So when she burned, I didn't mind it. I thought that was a nice take on it. Was it a perfect movie? No. But man, they really strived. And the performances in it is what makes it work. I mentioned the atmosphere in it, the way it was set up was wonderfully done. Some things kind of fell short, but some things were still, right now, just thinking about, creep me out. I agree, Mike. This is a movie that if it's a rainy Sunday and it comes on, I'm like, yeah, what the hell? Let's sit down and watch it.
Yeah,
again.
Stretch out on the couch, pull out a blanket, just watch it
and watch it again.
All right, I'm going to go with a 4. For me, I thought this was a really solid film. Obviously, I'm a big Oz Perkins fan. I thought, what people have said already, really solid performances. I loved that. I love the world that they portrayed. It's just so damn grim and predatory. And your own mother's going to turn you out. And if you don't leave, she's going to emphasize it by driving an axe right into the dinner table. Like everybody is just evil. And you've got one person, the huntsman, who demonstrates some virtue. And then a lot of this movie seems to be about choice. And that in the end, the children choose a different direction. Fantastic visuals, fantastic setting. I love the pacing. I like the pacing, and I like the evenness of it throughout. At first, when I saw the reveal, I'm like, should they be doing it this way? And then I thought about it. I'm like, wow, yeah, this is something that's not something you see very often. There would be like a frenzied, uptick in the score or something, and you just got none of that. It just kept rolling out like honey, like out of the jar. And I'm a fan. So 4. Is it Lawrence of Arabia? No. Or is it, Hereditary or something like that? No. But it's damn good, high level entertainment. I should say that Oz Perkins has a new movie coming out in February, I think, based on a Stephen King story called The Monkey. and they're playing the shit out of the trailer every time that I go to the movies. I see this Oz Perkins, and now they're just saying director of Longlegs, Oz Perkins, because people I think haven't picked up on the Blackcoat's Daughter, or they haven't seen Gretel and Hansel, the normies, or they haven't seen I'm the Pretty Thing That Lives in the House. They haven't seen those, so they Longlegs. Okay, well, this is the guy, and it looks really fucking good. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, you got him, you got Stephen King, and I think James Wan's attached too. So that's a good triple threat.
Yeah. No argument there. All right. Bill, plug something.
WMCX, Monmouth University Radio on the Jersey Shore, 88.9. I will be there doing my short run holiday radio show Thursdays from 5 to 8. You can listen anywhere in the world. Go to WMCX.com. I've got the Christmas blowout on the 19th, and on the 26th, the St. Stephen's Jam Band blowout. So lots of good stuff coming up over the next 4 weeks. Tune in.
All right. Eric, what do you got for us?
YouTube channel, Hey Internet, Eric here. This past Sunday, I conducted my interview with professional wrestler, the Hell Archer, Eric Fallon. Very good interview. I'm very proud how that came about. 20-year veteran. We talked the ups and downs of being on the road. Mike, I think you'd get a kick out of the story where he first met Kevin Nash in the locker room at an independent show. And meeting Kevin Sullivan. That was cool. Just today, I uploaded a video on The Substance. Came out a couple months ago with Demi Moore and Dennis Quaid. Holy Mike, if you're a fan, I sent you that text. If you're a fan of body horror, and I know you are, get on The Substance. I think it's playing on Prime. And me and Alex are getting together tomorrow to upload something Friday. We're actually doing our top 5 horror movies of 2024. He doesn't know my list. I have no idea what his list is. We're getting together tomorrow to record, and it'll premiere on my channel sometime on Friday around, I don't know, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock dinner time, when, people are, full and watching TV.
Okay. All right. Sounds good.
With a special guest appearance by Mike Lipford.
No. Too big fucking busy with work. It's fucking work is driving me crazy. John, what do you got for us?
I'm giving the plug like I gave last week. SPQR Stage Company in Somers Point, New Jersey is performing, as it says here, Magic Flowers. Friday the 13th is at 8 p.m. Saturday the 14th is at 2 and 4. And Sunday the 15th is at 2 p.m. And the one at 4 is live streamed on YouTube. You can actually pay the ticket price and go there and support the theater. The reason why I'm actually really pushing this again, I just found out a show that I did with these guys back in May called Derby Day, which was a romantic comedy the guy wrote about, based around the Kentucky Derby. I got to play a great bastard of a character called King. We got nominated for BroadwayNews.com Best Ensemble Performance of the year, which I was like, that's really cool. And it was a bunch of local theaters down here, the East Lynn Theater Company in Cape May, the Full Moon Company and by outside of Cherry Hill, SPQR Company. They concentrate on doing these small little professional theater companies, and I'm all for supporting them because that's how I got my start. Back when Cape May Stage was setting up folding chairs at places to turn it into a theater. That's how they got stuff started. So if you want to see something good, Magic Flowers is a wonderful holiday show. Not for all the kids, because they don't come out with dirty language, but there's a couple of adult themes in it, so to speak.
Okay.
But it's good for anybody from the ages of 12 on up. So if you get a chance to support live theater, do it.
All right.
Very cool.
All right. Sounds good.
Thank you for the thing, Mike, too.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'll keep it in here. It'll happen this weekend. So, okay, It's in there. It's in there in the overlay section. For this channel, we are supposed to be here next week for the final show of 2024 with our Christmas movie. I'm starting to balk at the idea of having to watch a Muppets Christmas Carol. Understandably, I think. I don't know how I feel about that now. I don't know what I'm going to do, but it will be. Huh?
You can always do Gremlins.
Yeah, that's not going to happen either.
That's the one I watch every Christmas.
No, have fun. I don't know. We'll be in touch over the weekend. We'll see. I mean, if it is, then this will be the last one because the week after that is Christmas, and then the week after that is New Year's, and then we'll be in 2025. This fucking year flew by. There were individual moments that dragged out. Don't misunderstand me, but this fucking year flew the fuck by.
Yeah, it feels like a month ago we did the last Christmas show.
I actually think we should do something on New Year's Eve drunk.
What
do a New Year's Eve celebration hammered.
There you go.
That would be a good excuse to stay home.
This group is bad enough sober when we get together.
I know.
I have not. I can't remember the last time I've actually stayed awake for a New Year's. Because in 2001, like 3 months after 9/11, I made the mistake of going to Times Square. And I just had such a fucking nightmarish experience that I've just like it sort of drove the fun of New Year's out. Like I've never been a huge New Year's person per se, but yeah, like now I just have like absolutely no interest whatsoever.
I've always told places where I worked, if they need me to work New Year's Eve, I'm fine. And when they said why, and I said because every time I've gone out, I've had people throw punches at me, and it's not my fault. They got mad because their girlfriend didn't kiss them or everything, and I was the biggest guy in the room, so I had people throwing punches at me.
Biggest target.
Well, I've never had
concerts on New Year's Eve, and
threw a punch at me when I was working.
So, always want to see concerts on New Year's Eve, and there are none to be had. If you aren't going to see Fish at times at Madison Square Garden, there's no concerts. No one wants to deal with
that guy from work,
the liability.
Right. Yeah, there's that guy from work. He's going to see a fucking Fish show. The last time on New Year's Eve, MSG, he just told me today. The last time I went to see a New Year's Eve show, I was at the Knitting Factory in New York, and I went to see Mike Patton and John Zorn, and it was some other woman like on like she was like DJing off like a MacBook or something like that. Yeah. I was at that show. That was a pretty good show. I ended up staying at JFK. That's how hard it was to find a fucking hotel room. I had to go from the Knitting Factory to JFK. So
that's a long way.
I used to love doing shows on New Year's Eve.
It was the subway. So
I had friends of mine would call me up to do like a New Year's Eve show, like a murder mystery comedy type thing. I'd do it all the time. You got good money, and they actually gave you dinner and a champagne drink at midnight type deal. It was fun.
The only reason I'm up till midnight is because my daughter's 12 and she wants to stay up till midnight, So once that clicks, we both go to bed. Yeah.
I
don't care.
I could care less. I remember, I think it was 2013. I finally finished a Dance of Dragons, the fifth Game of Thrones book, and I stayed up the whole from the time I opened my eyes, I cracked the book. And I said, I'm going to finish this fucking book if it kills me. And like I kept going to like 11:45 at night. And I finished the book and I'm like, oh, like what time is it? Holy shit, it's New Year's. And like I went downstairs for 15 minutes, I think, because I was visiting my parents. I was overseas back then. And, then I just went back to sleep after that. So
if you get a
he
chance,
still hasn't written a sequel.
He's not going to.
He said he's not. He just admitted that he probably
did. He really?
Yeah. There's no reason to. There's nothing he could write that would satisfy people.
That's what I was talking to my buddy at work because he's getting into the prequel series that's now playing on HBO. Right. And I was telling him because I liked the books. I enjoyed the show overall, but I'm like, I think the magic and anticipation's kind of gone. I don't think really anyone's going to give a shit because he's got, according to him, 2 more to finish the story. We've all seen how the show ended. Most people were disappointed, and I think it's been so long, no one fucking cares.
Yeah, but did he write the show, the ending of the last season of the show?
He gave them notes on how he planned for his series to end. Yes.
All right.
Now it's been however many fucking years, and he's still got 2 books to write. He might switch it, but he'll be dead before him. I don't know. It's like he takes 10 years to write a book, and Stephen King pumps out 4 a year. You know what I mean?
He's too
Well,
busy
Stephen King read
blogging
a
about
whole
the
story
giant.
about a lamp.
So, all right, that's it for this show this evening. My thanks to Bill Sell. My thanks to Hey Internet Eric here. My thanks to John K. Alvarez. Go get yourself a copy of The Brothers Grimm. Read those fairy tales. Go see Gretel and Hansel on Tubi and Pluto TV, or buy a cheap used copy like I did. That's it for us tonight. My thanks. Take care, everyone. God bless you, and we will see you all in the next video.
Good night.
Later.
Later, Gators. Hey, everybody. This is the American Werewolf. Thanks for stopping by.